Good morning, this is Marshall Davis. This episode was prompted by an email I received from a listener who's also an author and a podcaster. He wrote this. My question is this: if there's no puppeteer, why do I see circumstances that line up in ways that there is no possibility that they are random? I see this on a regular basis and can give you instance after instance. I used to use this awareness to maintain my dualistic thinking. I believe flow happens in a different way now, but I wondered how you approached perceived providence. Now he goes on in this email and a follow-up email to talk about the sense that at times we sense a pattern at work behind the scenes. If human history is a cosmic drama, then once in a while we seem to glimpse the script. Now I deal with this a bit in the episode where I talk about the closing vision of Herman Hesse's book Siddhartha. We try to make sense of our visions that we have at such times. We use words like providence or synchronicity, déjà vu, predestination, kismet, divine coincidence. The pastor of the church that we attend calls it God-incidence. Déjà vu is the feeling that one has already lived through a present situation before. Psychologists consider this a trick of the memory, as if the brain is having a hiccup. I think it's a taste of the eternal. At all such times we are getting a glimpse beyond the curtain. Now it is possible that this is just the brain trying to find patterns where there are none. Like seeing the shapes of animals in the clouds, or images of the Virgin Mary in a piece of toast, or in a knothole on a tree. And that may be part of it. Our brains are pattern-seeking instruments. I live in a timber frame house. At least the back part of the house is a timber frame house. And the ceiling of our living room is made of knotty pine, and I swear that those knotholes look like faces. And that is because as infants we have built in mental software meant to recognize faces, the faces of our parents. So there is a psychological element behind these phenomena, but there's more going on here, I think, than just a psychological blip. Physicists tell us that time is an illusion, and so is space. The physical universe as we perceive it is a creation of the mind. It's a product of our five senses and the brain that's trying to make sense of all the sensory input. At the same time, the human body, our human senses and the nervous system is a product of the universe, an expression of the universe, as well as the universe being an expression of us. So the two create each other. The universe creates us, and we create the universe. So which came first, the chicken or the egg? The non-dual universe is experienced as duality by human beings. We see the world as made up of billions of separate little objects, of which we see ourselves as one of those separate little objects. And that makes us feel separate and cause all kinds of problems. But that's our brain that's creating this. We have divided up the universe into little parts in order to make sense of it, and then we mistake our mental divisions for the nature of reality. But it's not. Reality is non-dual. In reality, there is no time or space. Albert Einstein famously wrote in 1955, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." Einstein's view was that time is a mental framework used to order events, but in fact all moments exist simultaneously. But they are ordered by us, one after the other, in order to create the illusion of a linear experience. Another well-known physicist of the 20th century, John Archibald Wheeler, summed it up in this way in a scientific paper. He said, "Time is nature's way to keep everything from happening all at once." He admitted that he didn't come up with this. He says in a footnote that he discovered this quote among graffiti in the men's room at the Pecan Street Cafe in Austin, Texas. So I guess the wisdom, the words of the prophet, are truly written on the subway walls, as Simon and Garfunkel wrote and sang. Most physicists today agree with Einstein that time's passage is an illusion. Reality is timeless, which also means spaceless, since time and space are two sides of the same dualistic coin called space-time or time-space. In reality, everything is here now. Be here now, as Ram Dass said in his famous book. These experiences that we have labeled as providence, synchronicity, déjà vu, divine coincidence, God-incidence, are glimpses of non-dual reality. Our brains try to make sense of the experiences by attributing them to divine messages, or prophecy, or destiny, or fate. But what they actually are is a glimpse of the whole. Everything that has ever happened and ever will happen is actually happening here now. That is what déjà vu is. That is what uncanny coincidences are. That's what prophecy is. Prophets are actually seeing the eternal, and people think they're predicting the future. They are seeing the now. Everything is here now. Now, dualistically, that sounds like fate and predestination, like everything is determined. And that is true when looking at it dualistically. Looking at it from a theistic perspective, it looks like God is working all things together for good, as that famous verse in Romans says. And I like that verse. It brings comfort. But when seen from a non-theistic perspective, from a non-dual perspective, everything is perfect just the way it is. Now, I'm not saying there's no evil or suffering and right and wrong in this dualistic world as we perceive it. There is. But it all fits into a bigger non-dual reality that transcends all such dualities. Non-dual reality is whole and complete. That's what the biblical words, Greek and Hebrew, for perfect mean. In this perfectness, wholeness, completeness is perfect peace. Shalom, the peace that transcends all human understanding. This is the peace that we know, or can know, in the midst of dualistic living. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't care about what happens, or that we don't hurt. We care, and we hurt. The last few days, I've actually been having some dental pain, and that persists. I'm going to have to go to the dentist next week to stop the pain. We have a close friend who is dying of ovarian cancer, and she is in pain all the time. We hurt with her. We were visiting with her just the other day, and she was sharing with us her bucket list of things she wanted to do. We're going to try to make those things happen. Her husband, who is also a good friend, is hurting. We hurt with those who hurt. We care about people. There is emotional and physical pain in this dualistic world. But all this is part of a bigger picture, a larger whole. And that whole, you can call by lots of terms. Call it Tao. I call it God. That whole is perfect. That whole I call good with a capital G, which is bigger than the good with a lowercase c, which is the dualistic good, which is simply the opposite of evil. Good with a capital G includes good and evil. All things work together in that greater good, for that greater good, which is divine. Looking beyond time, everything is perfect just the way it is. That's why I don't get bent out of shape by the news, especially by American politics these days. I've been writing about this a bit in my blog. The political right and the left both say that the sky is falling and our world is coming to an end. And they predict an apocalyptic dystopia if the other side, the other party, wins the White House or Congress. It can seem that way if one sees things only from within time and space. But beyond time and space, everything is perfect, whole, just the way it is. To think it is not perfect, that is the cause of all suffering. And that is it for today. Grace and peace to you.